The screen cuts to black. The daytime TV audience freezes. And just like that, a 36-year Hollywood legacy vanishes into thin air.
It is honestly just wild.
Welcome to StarScope Report. Join us as we uncover Hollywood drama, music industry shakeups, and viral influencer scandals. From red carpet surprises to social media controversies, we dive deep into the stories behind the fame.
And today, we are unpacking a headline that has completely taken over our feeds. The title of this deep dive is literally Maxie Jones is leaving General Hospital forever.
Right. It is the story everyone in the soap opera world is talking about. So picture this. You've got this beloved television character, someone with 36 straight years of on-screen history.
Which is practically unheard of in modern television.
Exactly. I mean, you've watched this character survive absolutely everything. We're talking comas, the devastating reveal of a fake dead husband, and going all the way back, a childhood heart transplant that basically defined a decade of TV.
Oh, that storyline was legendary.
It really was. And then suddenly you turn on your TV and she just packs her bags, hops on a plane to Australia, and takes an entire sprawling branch of a family tree with her.
Just 36 years of deep emotional storytelling, effectively erased in like a handful of passing lines of dialogue.
Yeah, it's a startling image when you lay it out like that, because we are wired to expect long-running stories to have some kind of closure, you know?
Oh, totally. We want the grand farewell, the emotional montage, the dramatic final bow.
But in daytime television, the script sometimes gets flipped entirely, and you're just left staring at an empty room. And that jarring disconnect is what we're unpacking today.
Right. We've gone through this massive stack of sources, celebrity news sites, soap opera magazines, fan forums, and even legal filings.
All centered around this shocking event on the July 23, 2026 broadcast of General Hospital. The legendary character Maxie Jones, along with her entire family, was just abruptly written off the show.
Which really forces us to explore that messy, fascinating collision between on-screen storytelling and behind-the-scenes reality.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because what was happening behind the camera is honestly more dramatic than the script itself. But wait till you hear what came next, because we're going to get into the intense fan backlash over the network's highly controversial decision here.
It was a massive narrative shift, and a lot of people felt the network chose the nuclear option instead of just, recasting the role.
If you're loving these Hollywood twists so far, make sure you're subscribed. We've got even crazier stories ahead in this deep dive.
So, seeing a legacy family just pack up for the Outback is incredibly jarring on screen. To really understand the whiplash viewers felt, we need to look at what actually aired on July 23rd.
Right. You tune in expecting the usual slow burn pacing of a soap opera, and instead you get this passing conversation. The character Cody casually reveals that Maxie's partner, Damian Spinelli, received an amazing job offer in Australia.
The dialogue was just strikingly final. The news was that the whole family, Maxie, Spinelli, and their kids, Georgie, Bailey, and James, are just packing up and moving down under.
And the phrasing they used was so weird. They said the family was itching to get out of Port Charles.
Which, if you know the history of these characters, feels completely out of left field.
Totally. I mean, Maxie is Port Charles royalty. Her roots in that fictional town go back decades.
Yeah, and to sever her ties even further, the writers had her divest her shares of Deception Cosmetics, selling them off to Michael Corinthos.
So it wasn't just like a vacation. It was a complete structural liquidation of her life there. It's like a Thanos snap for a soap opera. 1 minute they're there, the next, an entire branch of a family tree is just dusted.
That is a perfect analogy. The sheer abruptness of it all breaks the cardinal rules of soap opera pacing.
And is it normal for daytime soaps to just cleanly sweep 5 established characters off the board in one single move like this?
Yeah.
Rather than giving them a proper, drawn-out goodbye?
Not at all. To give you a sense of the timeline, Maxie had just woken from a coma in February of 2026.
Right, which is a huge deal.
She wakes up only to discover that her husband, Nathan, who she believed to be dead, had seemingly returned.
But this being a soap opera, it wasn't actually Nathan.
Exactly, he was an imposter. His twin brother, Cassius Faison.
A classic high-stakes plot twist. That was a massive front-burner storyline for the show.
Right, meaning it was driving the daily narrative. But almost immediately after that reveal climaxed, Maxie was suddenly removed from the canvas.
And for anyone who doesn't frequent soap forums, the canvas is just the industry term for the active roster of characters currently on screen.
Yeah, so initially the show explained her absence away by saying the family was on an extended trip to the Grand Canyon.
Which happens a lot, right? just a temporary excuse.
Exactly. But then, suddenly, that temporary trip morphed into a permanent relocation to Australia. The only real on-screen closure the audience got was an emotional goodbye scene between Cody and young James.
And even that specific goodbye scene had to be scrambled together because of real-world emergencies.
Oh, the situation with the child actor.
Yes. TMZ reports that the young actor, who usually plays James, Gary James Fuller, was tragically in a serious bike accident and was hospitalized during those final filming days.
Oh, wow. That is awful.
It was. So the production had to bring in a temporary actor, Easton Wynn, just to film that final scene where Cody gives James his cowboy hat back and they agree to video chat.
It just perfectly illustrates how fragile television production actually is, you know? The writers and producers are basically building the track while the train is moving.
Definitely. When multiple real-life crises hit the cast simultaneously, the narrative illusion just shatters and you end up with these incredibly clunky, rushed exits.
And that's not even the wildest part, because when a show opts for a rapid off-screen exit like this, stripping 5 established characters off the board in a single move, it almost always signals a real-world crisis happening behind the camera.
It really does. And it starts to make a grim sort of sense when you look at the emergency police reports and legal filings that surfaced in Tennessee during that same window.
Right. And as we transition into the real-world events that force this exit, it is crucial for you, our listener, to know that we are simply reporting the claims made in the legal documents, police reports, and public statements from our sources.
Exactly. We are laying out the complex, heartbreaking situation that forced the network's hand, absolutely, without taking a side in the underlying legal dispute.
So, according to the sources, Kirsten Storms relocated to Tennessee in 2025.
And she has been really transparent about dealing with some very serious health issues, right?
She has, including the terrifying discovery of a brain aneurysm, which required her to step back and prioritize her physical recovery.
That alone is a massive hurdle. But the immediate catalyst for this permanent exit actually stems from a severe legal conflict with her ex-husband, actor Brandon Barash.
Yeah, the situation escalated significantly in April of 2026. According to court documents, Barash filed for and was granted an emergency restraining order and custody of their 12-year-old daughter, Harper Rose.
And in his filings, Barash claimed that Storms was having a mental health crisis, experiencing delusions and hallucinations. He expressed grave concern over her ability to care for their child.
But then you look at Storms' side of the story, and she presents a vastly different reality.
She does. She claims that her apartment in Tennessee was broken into and that her devices and her Wi-Fi network were actively hacked.
Right. And she stated publicly that she provided digital evidence of this targeted harassment to the Franklin Police Department,
Who she says are actively investigating the situation. So you have these two fiercely conflicting narratives playing out simultaneously in the legal system and in the press.
It is incredibly intense. On one side, claims of a severe mental health crisis. On the other, claims of malicious digital harassment and stalking.
It is an incredibly heavy burden for anyone to carry. And I mean, if an actor is physically and emotionally unable to return to the set, isn't writing them off entirely actually the most respectful thing a production can do to give them space to heal?
Well, from a human resources and production standpoint, a situation like this is an absolute logistical nightmare for a daily television show.
Because they have to keep moving.
Exactly. People often forget that a soap opera isn't just a story, it's a factory. They are churning out up to 5 episodes a week. Scripts are written and locked in 4 to 6 weeks in advance.
Sets are built, shooting schedules are optimized down to the minute. You can't just hit pause.
Right. When an actor is dealing with a brain surgery recovery compounded by a traumatic custody battle, the network can't stop production.
But they also can't just coldly fire a legacy employee who is going through a massive personal trauma. That would be a public relations disaster and, frankly, just cruel.
So, in a June 2026 Instagram post, Storms directly addressed her fans, making it clear she would not be returning to Los Angeles or to General Hospital.
She stated that given the twisted circumstances of what was happening to her, she did not feel comfortable returning to work, and her priority had to be her daughter and her own quality of life.
So sending the character to Australia feels less like a creative choice and much more like a corporate liability shield.
It is a textbook administrative maneuver. By relocating Maxie to Australia, the network avoids killing the character off. They preserve the intellectual property.
while simultaneously granting Kirsten Storms an indefinite, open-ended leave of absence. It legally protects the network, removes the immediate pressure from the actor, and cleanly removes the character from the 6-week writing cycle.
I totally understand the corporate logic there, and I think most fans genuinely sympathize with Kirsten Storms' real-life nightmare.
Oh, absolutely. The fans have been very supportive of her personally.
But later in the episode, which is right now, actually we have to talk about the shocking twist nobody saw coming. The massive fan revolt this caused. Because that compassionate corporate maneuver completely detonated a bomb within the General Hospital fan base.
Yeah, the fury isn't directed at Storms at all. It is directed squarely at the showrunners.
Because to execute this HR strategy, the show didn't just lose one actor. They fired an entire TV family as collateral damage.
Think of a soap opera cast like a massive Jenga tower. The legacy characters, like Maxie, are the load-bearing blocks at the bottom.
I love that analogy.
When you pull a load-bearing block out abruptly because of a real-life crisis, the blocks resting on top of it, her romantic partner, her children suddenly have nothing supporting them.
The writers can't just leave those auxiliary characters floating in midair with no narrative anchor.
Exactly. So the whole tower branch falls.
And fans in our source forums are pointing out how brutal that domino effect is for the other actors, like Bradford Anderson, who plays Spinelli.
He is a massive fan favorite. He's been a staple of the show for years.
And then there's Gary James Fuller, the child actor playing James. Like we mentioned earlier, he was literally sitting in a hospital bed recovering from a bike crash, only to essentially find out his recurring job was just written out of existence.
It really highlights how precarious employment in daytime television actually is. When an anchor character is removed, the actors whose primary storylines revolve around that anchor suddenly have no utility in the eyes of the writers.
In a medium that requires constant forward momentum, characters without a driving storyline are just quickly swept off the board.
But this is where the fan backlash gets really fascinating, because there is an obvious alternative that the network just completely ignored.
The recast. General Hospital could have easily recast Maxie. I mean, recasting is entirely baked into the DNA of the soap opera genre.
Right. It's totally normal for daytime audiences.
Think about it like James Bond or Doctor Who. The daytime audience is totally trained to accept a new face with the same name. We've all seen a character walk upstairs as a blonde and come downstairs as a brunette.
With the announcer smoothly stating, the role of so-and-so will now be played by.
Exactly. And the audience just accepts the new reality and moves on. If the audience is already completely used to recasts, especially for this specific character, why would the network choose the nuclear option of firing the whole TV family?
Well, it's a unique quirk of the medium. Film audiences struggle with recasts because film is highly literal, but daytime television operates much more like live theater. The audience understands that the role is a mask.
Right. What matters is the continuity of the character's history, not the physical face of the performer. And the role of Maxie specifically is not some sacred ground that has never been touched by another actor.
Not at all. She has been recast multiple times.
Jen Lilly stepped in during 2011 and 2012. Molly Burnett covered the role in 2016 and 2018. Nicole Pogge just played the role recently, from 2023 to 2025, when Storms was taking previous leaves of absence.
So the audience was already completely conditioned to seeing other women step into Maxie's shoes. Which brings us to the underlying theory circulating heavily in the soap opera magazines and fan sites we analyzed.
Is it possible this was actually a convenient budget cut disguised as a creative necessity?
That is the big theory. If the audience accepts recasts, and there is a roster of actresses who already know the role, why choose the nuclear option? According to industry sources like Variety, daytime budgets are notoriously tight right now.
Ad revenue is shrinking. And every actor on contract or on a recurring tier costs significant money.
Right. Soap opera contracts are often built on episode guarantees. If you recast Maxie, you still have to pay the new Maxie's guarantee, plus Spinelli's salary, plus the episodic rates for the 3 kids.
But if you ship the whole family to Australia,
you have suddenly freed up a massive chunk of your weekly casting budget in one fell swoop. The official PR line might be about respecting the actor's space, but from a spreadsheet perspective, it is a highly convenient cost-saving measure.
wow. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next, because that financial reality is what makes the erasure of this character sting so deeply for longtime viewers.
We really have to talk about Maxie's immense legacy. This isn't a character who just moved to town a few years ago to start a coffee shop.
No, Maxie was born on screen in 1990. She is the daughter of the legendary super couple Frisco and Felicia. She was raised by Max Scorpio. Her roots run into the bedrock of the show itself.
And to understand the true depth of the fan fury, we have to look back at the 1994 storyline. That is the emotional core of why this character is considered untouchable.
The heart transplant. I mean, even people who don't watch soaps usually know about this storyline.
Oh, it was a cultural moment. When Maxie was a young child, she contracted Kawasaki disease and her heart was rapidly failing.
And in a storyline that won multiple awards and is still widely considered one of the most devastating in daytime history, Maxie's cousin, BJ Jones, was in a tragic school bus accident and was left brain dead.
It was so heartbreaking. BJ's parents, Tony and Bobby, made the agonizing decision to donate her heart to save Maxie.
The imagery from those episodes is permanently etched into television history. The scene where BJ's father, Tony, puts his head to young Maxie's chest just to listen to his daughter's heart beating one last time inside another child. It is breathtaking television.
It really is. And because of that specific history, Maxie isn't just Maxie. She is a living, breathing memorial to BJ. She represents the survival and the deep, intertwined trauma of the entire Jones and Scorpio families.
So when you grasp that context, the backlash makes complete sense. To longtime viewers, erasing Maxie isn't just writing off a character to save money. It is a massive betrayal of the show's own sacred history.
Right. You don't just put BJ's heart on a plane to Australia, liquidate her assets, and never mention it again. You recast the role, you keep the legacy alive, and you honor the decades of emotional investment the audience has poured into that character.
Exactly. And what does this all mean for you, the listener sitting at home? Why should you care about soap opera drama if you've never watched a single episode of General Hospital in your life?
It matters because this entire situation perfectly illustrates the profound psychology of parasocial relationships.
These aren't just characters in a 2-hour movie that you watch and forget. They are daily guests in your living room.
Evolutionary psychology tells us that the human brain isn't entirely built to distinguish between a person we see every day in our living room on a screen and a real neighbor.
That is so true. When you watch a character grow from an infant to an adult over 36 years, mourning their losses, celebrating their weddings, your brain processes them as a member of your community.
And when the messy, uncontrollable reality of the real world, the lawsuits, the health crises, the corporate budget cuts, shatters that fictional illusion, the sense of loss audiences feel is entirely genuine.
It feels like a breach of an unwritten contract between the storyteller and the audience. We trust the network to take care of these characters, and in this instance, the fans feel that trust was completely broken.
We've traced a complex web of art, commerce, and human frailty today. The intersection of an actor's deeply personal crisis and a network's financial bottom line has left the canvas of General Hospital permanently altered.
Which leaves us with one final thought to ponder as we wrap up today. The showrunners have technically left a creative back door open. I mean, Australia isn't Mars flights exist. Maxie and Spinelli could, theoretically, walk back into Port Charles tomorrow.
But if Kirsten Storms, focusing entirely on her daughter, her health, and her peace of mind, ultimately decides she never wants to step foot on a soundstage again, what happens then?
Will General Hospital eventually be forced to cave to the relentless fan pressure, admit they made a mistake, and recast the role of Maxie anyway to satisfy the viewers? Or will the legendary Maxie Jones and the memorial heart of her beloved cousin BJ beating inside her chest simply fade into television history, forever living off-screen, out of sight, in the outback?
It really is a question of how we value legacy, and right now the network is letting that legacy slip quietly away.
You've been listening to StarScope Report, where we uncover the story shaping Hollywood, music, and pop culture. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories that keep the stars shining.